G'day my friends and welcome to Marty's Garden here on YouTube. Today what we're talking about in this live show is what is the best worm farm for beginners. I'm going to be looking at 7 top tips you can look for. You're going to purchase your own worm farm. We're going to discuss with all the people here about what their favourite worm farm is and why, what they got started with, and they'll also look at the ins and outs of maybe some other farms that you could consider. But remember, this is my personal opinion. Nothing has been sponsored for by any of these companies, and I'm here to create an awesome show today. Alright, so let's get into it. Well, hopefully I'm coming in nice and clear there, my friends. Just checking on my microphone and everything's coming in good. And look, what I want to talk about is you can see this farm here straight in front. This is the one that I use. It's a very similar farm in the Worm Wranglers members area level 3 where I teach all about worm farming so you can get up and running fast, right? So that link is available in the description and also in the chat box right above here. And we want to firstly thank, straight off the rack, Glenny's Garden. Thank you so much for dropping off that. That's just unreal. I just got to turn down the music there for a second. Shut that down. All right, so super chat. Thank you so much. What we do when we get a super chat is we bring in the fake crowd, bring in the applauses. Hopefully we get that sound going there. There we go. Let's go again. Just getting all the software working properly here. Thank you so much, Glenny's Garden. If you want to leave a super chat, you'll find it at the bottom of the box there where we have the chat box going on. Now, if you're coming in late and watching the reruns, and you want a super chat but you can't, well, in the description area you can also go to the Buy Me a Coffee link and head over to that page and buy me a coffee there to help support this channel, because YouTube doesn't pay very much and every little bit just really helps this channel keep on going and me getting the education out to you guys. So thank you so much for that, Glenny's Gardening. Super duper appreciate it. And we've got Bendigo Hobby Farm here, finally going to make it. Well, thanks, mate, for making it here. And remember, we're going to be covering 7 top tips to what to look for in a worm farm. And I'm really excited to share with you guys as well what you're using and your questions. And we'll leave the Q&A towards the end, as usual, and run through and try and run the best educational show that we can. And here's AV. Another worm farmer from YouTube. Thanks, AV. Thought I might come hang out for a little while, but got to split. Have a good live stream. Well, as long as you can be here just for a little bit, that's great, mate. I appreciate you dropping in, AV, and hope all your worms are doing great. I'm sure they are. Bendigo Hobby Farm, finally going to make it. I just pulled that one across before. Hey, everyone, Marty, and everyone. I finally made a live show. We're sort of having them every second Sunday at the moment. It's nothing's guaranteed or locked in yet, but it's pretty close to it, and that seems to be how things are working out. Just got some Sundays planned ahead for some car work and different things. Waiting for the weather to dry out so I can get my car resprayed and stuff. All right, LP, g'day, mate. Welcome again to the show. Barry, hey, Marty, g'day all. And I'm coming in loud and clear. Well, cheers to you. I think I'm slowly getting better at these live shows and trying to do the best I can to produce a piece of content for the people coming to watch the reruns and also coming in on the live show. Christopher Harkon, hi mate, g'day from Mildura, Victoria. Hey Chris, how you going, buddy? A long way down the coast there. But still warm weather, I believe, in Victoria. We still got these La Nina patterns, and I hope you're doing well down there, mate. I don't think you're getting all the rain that we're getting, so that might be a bit of a bonus. I bought a hungry bin to start. I didn't realise how much waste it can process. They really do process a lot of waste, especially if you've got a lot of worms happening here. Anyway, look, the show is absolutely cranking today. We are going to get into these 7 tips very, very shortly. What we do, I just want to thank everyone that's coming in and warm welcomes to the live show. Sharon Carpenter, $14.99 Sharon Carpenter super chat. Now, thank you so much Sharon, it's always so appreciated. It truly is. And what we do is we got the crowd there. This is my artificial crowd that I like to introduce you to the show. I like calling the kids out the back. They're a lot of fun. And thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It really helps quite a lot. Still asleep, can't type, need coffee. Yeah, as well. The thing about this show is we can have it all around the world, right? Different places, which is really, really cool. And again, thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. Right, so let's get into the top 7 tips, what to look for. So we've got tip number 1. Now I do these like finger things here because the people that come on and don't watch the full rerun, they scroll. So they're looking and they go, oh, that's tip number 1. So they'll get that one like that. And I'll go, you need to look for a farm that's well built, right? Now, this one here that you can see in front, we'll pull it up here. It's a tiered stack farm. Excuse me, having a drink on the way. That's what happens live. I can't cut that out. Right, little birch there, belch there to say. Right, tiered stack worm farm, sun hardened plastic, really important because they are out into weather and they need to last for quite a few years. Right now, they are still fairly, reasonably priced, I guess, for what you get. And yeah, so a tiered stack farm, sun hardened is definitely where you need to be. Otherwise, you're just going to fall apart really quick, like those pegs that you put on your clotheslines. Within 1 year, they're just done and dusted. I hate those things. Bring wood on, but bring the wood peg back to Woolies, I say. All right, so tip number 2. Here we go, the big 2 fingers there. Tip number 2 would have to be a nice tight fit. Now, I've got a new farm and one of the lids doesn't fit very well. I'm going to be talking about that in future, one of the vlogs in a section or something like that. Because I don't generally mention brands much anymore. I want to leave it to you guys, but I can, you can sort of sometimes figure it out, which ones they are. Most of them are pretty good these days. Not a lot of difference between them, but you need to look for these things, right? Because there's new ones coming on, there's old models out, and they don't always have all this stuff. So, a nice tight fit for no escapees, especially when you're first starting out, because we just want to build up our numbers, right? We generally start off with 500 to 1,000 worms is more what I recommend. And then, we start stacking our levels on top, so they migrate up, right? And we need to have nice tight fits, because if they start migrating up and going out the sides and things, they spill over, they can't find their way back in, they fall on the ground, depending on what's on the ground and what's down below, and possibly you've lost a worm. Right, so looking for a nice tight fit, and don't worry, they will get out here and there. That's what they do, but the less the better, right? Now, this is tip number 3, and I've discovered this over time. You need to have good, strong legs. Now, this tiered stack worm farm has got a really good, strong leg. It can hold all the weight. Worm castings and compost, when it's wet, gets really heavy, like back-breaking heavy, really. Like, you wouldn't believe how heavy it can be. So, you need to have really good, strong legs. Some of the weaker ones, I've noticed, like I've had legs fall away, and then all of a sudden, you can envision it, right? So look for good, strong legs. Make sure it's on those farms. Right, number 4. Tip number 4. I've got my count right because I've got my sheep beside me here. Tip number 4 is volume, right? You've got to have good volume in your farms. Especially if they're mostly, if we're talking an outdoor worm farm. So an outdoor worm farm that has more volume, more mass, it won't heat up as quick and it won't cool down as fast. So that way, in the fluctuating temperatures, it stays at more steady temperature, and you can actually you get better success. If your worms get too hot, they just really don't like it. If they get too cold, they slow right down, stop feeding, stop producing, and become really immobile, right? So volume is quite important, especially like in that fluctuating temperature time of the seasons changing, or, you know, those days when it's all of a sudden it's a spring day and then it's 21 degrees the day before, next minute it's 28, right? So we need to keep that in mind. Sometimes we don't always get to run outside and move them around and put them in the shade or put them into the sun, into a warmer spot. So, yeah, think about that. And when we are moving them around a lot, we want to make sure when we drop them down, those legs are nice and strong, right? So they don't topple over. So keep that in mind. For tip number 4, volume is quite important. Now we've got tip number 5, what to look for in a brand new worm farm. And then more as we go through, we'll talk about what I believe is the best worm farm for beginners. Tip number 5, right, airflow. Airflow is super important because if we have no oxygen in the farm, we don't get microbial bacteria build up, and that's what the worms feed on. They're feeding on that bacteria that's getting on the side of the food and the bedding, and they're bringing that into their gut. They're processing it through the grit in their gut, and then turning that into that bacteria, microbes, into a worm casting or a worm poop, so to speak, full of that good nutrition. So whatever nutrients were in that material, and also the bacteria that's in there that becomes a microbe, gets passed through, and then it's, you know, it's held in a little membrane sac around the outside of that, and stores it, releases it over 6 months' time. pH neutral, plants love it. The best stuff, in my opinion, is the best fertilizer, organic fertilizer, hands down. Okay, right, so airflow is super important, right? And if you're unsure, you can always whack a few more little holes in your farm. Don't worry too much about escapees, little holes here and there. You're going to actually get a better airflow. Now, the newer models in the last few years have introduced a bit more airflow, so they've gotten a lot better than the older models. All right, so we're still talking about the tiered stack worm farm here, which I believe is the best worm farm for beginners, and the one that I teach in the Worm Wranglers Level 3 members area, how to get started up really fast with lots of quick little videos, and then you've got your intermediate videos and some builds and, you know, some underground worm farming stuff and everything, all in there in that course, which you'll find in the link in the chat box and also in the description down below. Right, so now we've got tip number, so what are we up to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully I'll get this right because I didn't write the numbers on my chart. Tip number 6. What to look for in a worm farm. Well, they need to be stackable, right? So we want to be able to stack them on top of each other. What you can see here on this farm is down below, this is the tank. So this is where the water is. And then you'd have your bedding here on your first farm, and you just have one lid on top. And as they sort of finish that, eat that bedding and turn it into casting, you stack that next one on top. They move up through. I very rarely put this third one on here. I believe it's too heavy. You've already got castings involved, so I don't teach that in my method. Some people use it. I think it's a personal thing. When you get more into worm farming, but at the beginning stages, you really just need to have 2 and keep your third aside for a spare, or maybe even use it as an underground worm farm somewhere in the garden and make a little lid for it. And you can release your spare worms as you get extra ones into the garden, into that box system. That's a good way to do it. I've done that before myself. All right, so I think we're up to, so I didn't count here. This is going to teach me a lesson. I think it's tip number 7 we're up to now. Tip number 7. In the new farms, we need to look in this bottom base here. So we're looking at the bottom base, a cone coming up. So it's like a cone shape, and that makes where the worms, there's water down below where the liquid goes through. And if the tap gets blocked, I always recommend you take the tap off. But if you take the tap off, it flows through better and less blockages. But you've got a cone in the bottom, and that way the worms can climb up out of that water if they get liquid stuck onto it, and they can get up to their next part to get back to the feeding source instead of, they don't actually drown worms. There's something different that happens to them. I don't want to get into that at the moment, but they will die for about 3 days of being underneath water. So the cone is really important to look for in these newer farms. If they don't have it, go for one that does if you can. Oh, I made that a bit tangy. That's my lemon lime drink. Oh, no wonder I was coughing before. All right, so I'm just going to give you talk about one more thing, and I was going to go number 8 as not a super tip, but an extra bonus tip. Cost, obviously, is, plays a big factor in. But if you're going to pay $20 more for something that has crappy legs, you're going to regret it. So just pay that little tiny bit extra, get the better one, and avoid sort of those cheaper knockoffs that generally only about, as I said, $20 cheaper. And they'll last 3 times as long. You'll get 10 times better result, and you'll get a lot less stress. So, and as I said, I'm not mentioning any brands today. I'm not sponsored by any way by any worm farming companies at all, and I'm not paid to say any of this about the farms. Now, we're looking at the tiered stack farms. This is the one that I recommend for beginners to use, but there are others, people that move through for the first farm. There's a flow through farm. Now, these farms are basically narrower at the bottom, wider at the top, and they're either made out of plastic or they're made out of a material that's got, the air can go through the sides. Now, the one with the air that's going through the sides, it gives really good airflow, so it's unreal for the bacteria and the worms right through. They just dry out a lot faster. That's the thing. But if you've got them in a basement or something like that, no wind and stuff, then won't dry out as quick. So, but the plastic ones will have actually the moisture on the side, and the worms will get to that. They like getting that moisture off the side of the plastic. So there's benefits to both of them. These things are a bit heavier to move around, right? So yeah, not really recommended for beginners from my perspective, but I still think they're a really good farm if you want to take that bigger option and take on more material. For sure. So let's get back to where we were here. I've got some exciting news in my farm at the moment, brother. I would like to join in on a live show. We'd have to get links and things like that. Maybe towards the end, if I can find the link, I can drop it in there. I'm just not sure how to do that, but let's just flow with that at the moment. Like both of us live at the same time. Yeah, we'll see what we can do more towards the end. If I had a bit more notice, a bit easier, but we'll see what we can do. We'll keep going on with the content for the moment, and possibly do that as we're moving through. All right, what would you recommend using to create a cone for the bottom tier if your worm farm doesn't have one? I've done it with old bricks, and then put a piece of cloth or a piece of plastic over the brick, a rock sort of thing that's sort of like that, and it's just sort of got to touch the top so they can climb up. So anything that's not going to fall over, tip over, that'll create that sort of cone, you can use that. You just sort of got to be a bit creative, a block of wood, anything really. I seen an upturned yogurt pot put into stacked worm to use the same effect. So see, there you go, that's a really good one to have. So yeah, so they just can climb up, I think that's a good way to go. Now, I've got a bit of news for you guys. If you've been following the vlogs, I've had my compost area down at the Three Brothers site at Dunbogan, and we survived the floods. Thank goodness, all the worms went up high. I stacked all the piles up high so they could get up, and it didn't get a lot of salt water from the river, a lot of fresh in it. So it looks like we survived pretty good. And you can see in one of my YouTube shorts, the big worms that I found, these big native ones, and they almost look like a giant euro, just huge in the piles. And I've seen them a couple of times now when it's raining. And yeah, so I'm actually looking at now building a studio where I had the compost at the side of the house. We're putting up a big 3 metre by 3 metre plastic worm farm, a really good one for the strong winds. Then we're building garden beds off the end of it, and the whole thing's going to be run by worm farming. And yeah, it's all going to be powered like that. And it's going to be really, really cool, and teaching people how to be more self-sufficient growing food and worm farming, and running it through those weekly vlogs, which have been coming out every Saturday at the moment. So yeah, Karen was helping me dig up some of the area and we're going to be putting the worm farms in there, and so it'll dissipate the light, we'll get good light, and yeah, it'll extend out as I do the vlogs. I'll show you the extensions of the garden, and we'll be building that out, and so you'll be able to follow along and possibly even do something really similar yourself. So you're just using your own waste and saving a lot of money and growing a lot of fresh food at home. So here's another tip from here: use empty ricotta container for a cone. So any of those, yeah, plastic ones, plastic ricottas, yogurt ones, as long as it sort of touches the top. You might need to stack 2 on top, even one squashes down a bit, as long as they can sort of climb up it. Those massive worms look good. They were pretty big, right? Like you haven't seen them. They're like hanging out. They're like nearly as thick as my little finger almost, you know, and they're about yay long, not even stretched out. So I can imagine if they were stretched out, I don't know how long they would be, because they were sort of and they'd probably be, you know, like 4 years old or more, one of those worms like that. So I think they can live up, some of those type of worms can live up to nearly 12 years. So big breeders. I released them back into the compost pile to let them do their thing, and they were really, really happy. So with the new build out, we're putting the greenhouse up and the new gardens and things like that. It's going to be organic gardening on steroids, basically. Got some great ideas, and I didn't film a lot of that garden last season because people just weren't interested in my garden so much. Every time I'd bring out a gardening video, they did worse than the worm farming one. But I need to connect them together to show the outputs that you can get, you know, from the inputs that you put in. And it's not a lot of work, not as much work as what people would think. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And we got Pinball Wizard has turned up on the show. So thanks, mate. Great to see you here. Now what we can do is we want to ask you guys what your favourite worm farm was when you first got started, or if you're first getting started now, what type of worm farm you're using and why, how you're finding it, any problems that you're finding with it, any difficulties that you've come across, and fire away with any questions that you may have. If you've come in a little bit later, go back to the reruns, check out those top 7 tips for beginners, you know, the best worm farm for beginners, and what to look for, because that'll really help you at the start of purchasing a worm farm without having to go through and look at all the reviews and all that type of things. So yeah, we're back to here, and we're looking at the best type of worm farm. Now remember, this is my own personal opinion. It depends on, you know, like what you want to achieve. I just believe for the most beginners, the stacked worm farm with a lot of volume, fair bit of surface area, nice and strong, good strong legs, a cone in the bottom, good airflow, yeah, and then you've got something that you can really get started with quickly. And then I recommend, if you're going to extend out, you possibly get a flow-through farm next. I really like the combination of a flow-through farm and that also having a stackable worm farm. And then the third one would be an underground worm farm of some type. So you're using all those systems in conjunction with each other, and your stackable worm farm becomes one of your breeding houses where as you're breeding them up, you're then releasing them into either your bigger one to get started, so your flow through worm farm, and then or into your underground systems to fertilize your plants and your gardens and things like that. So yeah, so let me know what type of worm farm you're using, what you first got started with, any issues that you've come across them, what you think maybe an improvement that they think they could do. You know, I hear never from any of these worm farming companies. Sold them a lot of worm farms, but I know they watch these shows and they grab these videos and put them on their websites. Why not? Because they're free, right? Christopher Harcon. Okay, let's go here. And Bendigo Hobby Farm. I have a worm cafe can of worms, a maize worm farm, and 2 in-ground worm farms in my veggie bed. I'm really thinking about a worm bin, but they are a bit pricey. Does many people on here have one? the worm bin? Don't know. It'd be interesting if anyone has one. Please, if you could answer that, that would be really helpful. I'm not sure if you're talking about a hungry bin. Someone mentioned at the beginning that they do have one and they use it as their first worm farm. So I've had a hungry bin, and I'll be getting another one from Permy Pete in the near future if he drops that off soon. And yeah, I've made lots of videos about them, so you can always look at that too. All right, so away into worm farm. My favourite at the moment is the one I built myself. It's a continuous flow system, and it's a real good producer of compost. Yeah, well, that's awesome. If you can build them yourself and you're pretty handy, and you understand how worm farms work, then yeah, go for it. At the beginning, when you're a complete beginner, I recommend you just start off with a package, get used to it, and then maybe look at building one later. If you build your own one, the very first, I believe you could have come up with some hiccups, and then it could, you make some mistakes that could possibly turn you off worm farming. So we want to get the best result as quickly as possible and then grow out from there, right? So thank you for sharing that, Wayne's Worm Farm. Now, my father said last week that my voice was coming in later than the text down below. So if anyone's experienced that as well, there's a crossover, something wrong with the voice to the text, please let me know in the comments box. I'd love to hear if there's any issues like that. All right, Barry Watler, stacked worm was my original worm. Now I have 4 worm cafes, 2 can of worms, and 3 sub-pods in the ground in our community area. Yeah, that's a good amount of farms, probably more than enough now. You'd be more likely just introducing the underground worm farms into other parts of the garden to expand out and to keep, costs down for fertilization and things like that, and to breed them up, because you'll find they'll be everywhere through that garden in a year or so, especially if you're mulching down quite a lot. Sharon Carpenter, I took up a council offer for a maize worm farm. They were offering 1 per household. I got it late January. So I'm new. I'm new to worm farming. No problems yet, thank goodness. I keep them in the laundry. Yeah, those small ones, like the maize, they're really great for that, like inside the laundry and things like that, and not small families or single people, or even a bigger family, just not using much. But generally, they don't turn over as much waste as, say, a flow through or the bigger stackable versions. But they're introducing these smaller ones now for apartments and things like that, which is really great because they never offered those before, and you couldn't put a big stackable worm farm like this in your laundry. They just took up too much space, right? So it's good that they've introduced those as well to help people start to farm worms, which I think is really cool. And so remember, if you've got any questions, you want to share the worm farm you're using, any issues you've had you found with it, or you've got any questions for me, please fire away. Happy to answer them. Rick Thalian, hello Marty and everyone. Welcome Rick, and welcome to the show. If anyone's come in later, we've got the top 7 tips at the beginning of the video for you guys what to look for in a new worm farm. Remember, this is my own personal opinion. I don't get sponsored or paid for by any worm farming companies whatsoever. I'm totally 100% solo. So, welcome, mate. Nick Onega, great show, Marty. I've got the Worm Factory. Oh, okay, that worked good for you. I've never had one of those myself, but I've heard okay results from them. They're nice and tight and stacked. I wonder if they got the cone at the bottom so they can crawl up. Do they have that? I'd like to know. And if you would give it the thumbs up, or would you look at maybe purchasing a different type of worm farm if you had the choice again? I think that's a good question for us all. If we bought one and I think I would actually go for another type of worm farm next time. But you got to remember, we're looking at the beginner's mindset and then flowing through as we become more into intermediate, into other systems, and expand our worm gardens and for fertilizing our plants and things. All right, O'Donnell's Aussie Homestead. G'day, Marty, my favorite Aussie homesteader. down on the central coast of New South Wales, Australia. Hopefully, I'm sure the rains will stop for you, mate. We're getting bashed by massive swells now. Avoca Beach, not far from Central Coast, got wiped out yesterday. They filmed it all and called it a mini tsunami. I think that's a bit over the top, but yeah. Always good to see you here, my friend. Matt Ellsworth. I just have a homemade bin. I put a drainage in the bottom for the tea, drilled a bunch of holes in the top. Seems to work well. Lots of worms and lots of eggs. Yeah, that's awesome, Matt. Well, you look like you're a pretty good DIY man to me. So I think if you want to save the money, you understand concept, you understand design, you've got the time, yeah, DIY can really be a good way to go. I know some people make their own hungry bins out of the trolley bins that we use for the council. They put a big airflow system down the bottom and a vat to pull out the castings, and they seem to work well, and some people even sell those. Okay, Christopher Harkon. Started with a bathtub, then got 3 worm cafes. Now also using flow through with wheelie bins. Yeah, see, that's the one I was talking about, the wheelie bin one. Got 5 now. So if you let us know a bit more about your design on your wheelie bin, did you use the, they've got them for plumbing and stuff like that. It's like a round grid, and they put them over around the farm, and that allows the airflow, and they have some type of catchment system down the bottom. It'll be interesting to hear how that come along for you, Christopher, if you want to share. If you don't, no problem, mate. Question. Does the windrow system work well for you, Marty? The windrow system works absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love it. Now you don't have to be in a row, so to speak. You can make a big pile of compost to get a similar result. I really like a big pile where it's round like that, almost like a cone shape again. So the airflow is coming all into the side. And if you've got a square meter, so a cubic, 3 cubic feet or whatever it is, that works really good. Because you can throw extra nitrogen in it in the winter, and it heats up, keeps them warm. And then in the summertime, you sort of let that, you back off on the nitrogen, feed more carbon, keeps them cool and moist. So yeah, I really like that system, but it's not, that's more if you've got a lot more space, right? Okay. I've got the Tumbleweed Worm Cafe. Yep, that's pretty much the one we're looking at there. And that's the one that I use in the course, Starting a Worm Farm, a Beginner's Guide to the Worm Wranglers, number 3 level there. There's a link in the chat there and in the description for people that want to learn worm farming fast. That's the one that I use through most of it. And then we expand out in this members area. We're going to be doing more videos soon and looking at, going into from intermediate into the upper level stuff as time goes on. So yeah. At Picton. Ooh, wow. At a railway mudslide. Well, you work at the railway, so you know. Crunchy biscuits. I just come across your channel 5 minutes ago. Great stuff. I have tons of questions, but I know a lot of them are probably answered in your videos. Look, go through the videos. Sure, check them out. If you've got a few questions, fire away, mate. You grab me while I'm here. At the moment, I'm sort of here every second week on a Sunday. It's never guaranteed, but I do my best to be here every second week on a Sunday live. So, yeah, fire away, mate. And people love the questions because they think, oh, I wish I'd thought of that. I didn't know that. That's really cool. So we have everyone from beginners to advanced worm farmers here, and a lot of people that come in and support the channel as well via Super Chat. There's also the Buy Me a Coffee link if you come in later and you want to actually just go across. There's also the worm farming ebook over at the Buy Me a Coffee page there as well. So there's lots of ways you can get this information from me if you want to consume it quickly. So yeah, but I recommend if you're really serious about becoming a worm farmer, you want to learn fast and you want to actually learn how to raise seedlings with it, the whole lot, become a worm wrangler, right? Level 3. It's just cheaper than a pizza and you never look back once you've learnt that stuff. Dad's Amazing Adventures. Good morning, Marty and chat. Yeah, another man on the Central Coast, filming all around, sort of on the beaches and birds and things. So being a bird and beach man, yeah, love that stuff that you put out, my friend. Nick Onega, to the worm factory. The plastic on the corners have cracked, but it's still great. Easy rotation. So does it have? Is it a good sun-hardened material? That's what I'd like to know. From what I've seen in the images, it looks a bit thinner than, say, the one we're looking at now on the screen here, which is the stacked tiered worm farm. Nice, thick and strong plastic, sun-hardened plastic. And yeah, so I'd like to know more about that. But easy rotation, so that's good. Rick the Lane. The airflow base used to be used in kitchens to allow airflow to the cupboards. Okay, cool. Never heard of this one. I have a Worm City, UK-based stack system, but a lot of worms will stay in the lower part of the system. Probably still food in there and a lot of moisture still down there, the right sort of biology and things in there. The only way you can entice them to come up, to migrate, is to put some nice new fresh bedding, such as some compost, some mushroom compost, and some nice tasty yummy food that they like, maybe some carbohydrates that will send them up, like some banana skins or some bananas and maybe some like pulped up apple or something like that. Lots of people in here have different ways of feeding their farms, so we love hearing about that. But yeah, entice them up. Then you need to harvest your castings down below, and it'll look like a putty almost when you put it in your hand and when it's ready to go. But you don't have to wait until it's fully finished to use it and get the results from it, right? People wait too long sometimes. So yeah, hopefully that helps, and you can learn about the harvesting side of things in the Worm Wranglers members area. Okay. A few more people just saying hello to each other here. And yeah, Barry Watler. Recently harvested the first tray from Worm Cafe and was amazed to the amount of castings in the collection or bottom tray, so harvested out. So many worms in the trays, the castings were like mud. It was probably just a little bit wet, so you want to let it, like, you just don't wet down your farm a few days before you get ready to harvest the castings. Or you can actually take off the top tray, wet down the top tray, let that all flow through, and then stack it back on so that water doesn't go back through and make the castings too wet. We want to have the castings around about 50% sort of moisture at the final when we stack them, and store them if we need them, or use them straight away, which I think is the best way to go. So hopefully that helps with a little bit of sort of insight on the collecting and castings and stuff like that. So we've got Wayne's Worm Farm here. Northwest Wales here. Got the Worm City stacked system myself, David Morgan. And a bit of a coincidence, my uncle is called David Morgan also. I think Mad Dog Morgan in Australia, the famous bushranger, was a David as well. I don't know the history about him, but yeah, awesome stuff. Now, I want to thank everyone that's been supporting this channel. Like Matt, you've just been absolutely just amazing. I haven't got a hat to take my hat off today to thank you enough, but I truly do thank you with all my heart. A super chat, $50 from Matt Ellsworth. Love to see you get that new greenhouse. Great stuff, Marty. That is just absolutely brilliant. That'll help so much with the build out. We've got a little bit more to do than just we've gone back to sort of a cheaper version to keep it more affordable, and then we're going to, if it works out, we're going to build a nice polycarbonate one later, see how it goes. But I've got to put out the garden beds, and we've got to put floor down, the material down for the floor and all that stuff. So mate, just absolutely brilliant. Let's bring across an applause for Mr. Matt Ellsworth for a super chat of $50. Man, unreal, just absolutely unreal. Really helps a lot. Thank you again so much. Yeah, it's going to be gold to get that system up and running. It's going to be cool though, teaching everyone how to use these worm farming stuff to grow plants and then harvest a lot of food. Because my concern at the moment is like the dollar bill is just going down, our wages aren't going up, and cost of living is so. Hopefully I can help a lot of people save a bit of money and grow nice fresh food at home using the power of compost worms, right? So Nick Aniga, that's right. Oh, we forgot to thank these guys too for our crowd in the background, an artificial crowd that helps us out. via these super chats. If you want to do a super chat, it's available in the bottom of the box there where you guys comment and chat. And also, if you're coming in later, there's also the option to buy me a coffee, or head over and grab that ebook at the Buy Me a Coffee website, and you'll find that you'll learn heaps from those. And stoked. Thanks, guys. Right, let's keep going with it. Nick O'Neill, that's right, similar to the one pictured. The worm factory is a bit shorter though, and the plastic may be a bit thinner, maybe a little bit more brittle. Look, what some of these companies do, and they all do it with everything, is they just try and they go, okay, we can't put the price up, where do we cut costs to make more profit? So then they go, oh, we'll put less stuff of this, the sun hardener, in the plastic or something like that, or we'll make it a bit thinner, and then every 100 worms we get a free worm. I don't know, that's just how it is. So our dollar speaks, and I always recommend just spending that extra $10, $20 more on a better product, and they'll last twice as 3 times as long. But if you're happy with it and it's done serve the purpose for you, that's great. And thanks, Nick, for sharing your experience with the worm factory. I really appreciate it. I do wish these companies would reach out to me more, talk about design and different things. But one day we will have our own worm farm, right? And it'll be for you guys, and we'll design it, and I'll put it together. We'll make a really cool design. We'll make our own 2.0 version that we want, right? They keep telling us what we want, that they don't know anymore, because they're not bringing out the 2.0 versions. These are all 10 years old. The only change is a little bit of airflow and maybe a cone in the bottom. It's not much, but anyway, we can make them better in time for sure. If you've got any more questions here for me, fire away. Don't feel shy or afraid. No question is too stupid or silly. We've got beginners, people who have never even started a worm farm watching this show, right through to the advanced that have been doing it for years. It's like this collective mindset here of worm farming is just amazing. Take advantage of it. Why this live show is running, because we generally run for about an hour, and we still got a bit to go. And if people are rocking out the good questions, we keep on going. Then I'm going to head down, because I've got these big seas, and I'm going to go and have a look at this big surf. See how big it is. They're not calling it as big as Sydney, where I am, but I'm interested to know. The winds aren't right for me to go surfing though today, unfortunately. Otherwise we could be doing some big wave surfing. That would be fun. I'm not as strong as I used to be though. I don't go out in the ultra huge stuff like I used to. Maybe I'm a bit smarter these days. I'm preferring your show on a Sunday morning than on a Saturday, Marty. Yeah, well, thank you. Like I said, I'm not guarantees any at the moment, but we're trying to do every second Sunday if something doesn't come up with family, or I've got something important that I have to do. So yeah. Rick Thalane, hope you were busy yesterday at Three Brothers. Look, it's been so wet, I haven't been down there much. We've still got quite a big pile of compost to do, but we're setting up the studio space here with the greenhouse, and building some worm farms off that, filming from all inside, build out of the gardens and all that. So I'll be here mostly. Oh, excuse me. I put too much lime in that drink. I was in a bit of a rush this morning, and I don't have my admin to go, hey, go fix up the water for me. It's just me, myself, and I today. Let's go here. I don't know what you mean by this one. If you were to use a third tray from stacked worm farm, I think you're just going too far. You don't need it, because your bottom one should already be harvested anyway. You should be collecting. You're just making your farm too heavy. The only reason I would have a third one is like if it's like we're going for mass volume and it's really cold weather, then you maybe want to keep that in the really cold for as much volume as possible. It's a great way to start a Sunday morning. That's wonderful, awesome. Well, I'm glad I can help you guys bring some bit of joy, bit of education, and bring the community together, and you get a lot of value from it. And so thank you so much for coming to even watch the show. If you've come in late, check out the top 7 tips for before you purchase a worm farm, or what to look for in a new worm farm. They're my top 7 tips before you get started. And they're really something that you need to look for in each worm farm now, even if you're purchasing a second one or you're sort of moving on into that one. Kaushik, hopefully I have got your name pronounced here right. Kaushik C, 3 weeks into my worm farm. I always thought that it is stinky and it would attract cockroaches. I have the worm farm in the apartment balcony. It smells amazing and all the organisms are contained. Yeah, if you're doing it properly, should just smell nice earthy. So obviously you're doing it all right. So hats off to you, my friend. We will give you an applause for that. 3 weeks into the new worm farm. The artificial crowd digs it. It's good on you, mate. Stoked to have you there. And yeah, that's really great. Congratulations. Rick the Lane. Beaches were closed Saturday. People tried and broke boards. Yeah, that's like big swells. The low pressure system was a bit too close to the coast. If it moved right out, the rest of the coast just would have been just huge. Even where I'm 4 hours north of Sydney drive, so 400, 500 k's. James Coates. Morning all. Sorry, a little bit late. Busy with work and kids. No worries, mate. I totally get that. My girl's 15 now, and I said to get up and get yourself some brekkie and stuff before we run the live show. You're going to walk around, just don't slam any doors. She's great. She used to be in a lot of the videos before. Not so much anymore as she gets older. But yeah, kids are awesome. Family comes first. Barry Waller. If you use the third trade from Stack Farms as in the ground, you would need to drill more holes. Okay. Yeah, possibly. It depends. Like, I don't know, you'd have to sort of try. I've done it before, I find, but all the farms are a bit different, right? So I found that it's worked okay for me. But the problem is you've got to have a lid, because your lid's already on the other farm, then you don't have a lid, and so that's probably where I find it gets a bit, yeah. Can I use, this is a good question, can I use blood and bone as a buffer mixed with garden lime? No, I would not use blood and bone in the worm farm. I'd use it maybe in compost and gardening and things like that. That's what it is. It's blood and bone, and it's going to attract flies and different things. And I wouldn't really recommend it. A buffer is you've got to have more of a calcium, which would be like eggshell, things like that, grits and stuff, to break down the pH, bring the pH back to closer to neutral. But great question, and I would just use it in the garden, basically. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, everyone. We forgot to do that game that we always do, and let's check it. 25 people watching, 19 thumbs up. What we try to do is have more people, more thumbs up than people watching, and we are below that. So please give us a thumbs up. Let the YouTube algorithm know that we are cranking a great show, and that'll let everyone know to come and watch more reruns and things like that. Helps the show a lot. So thanks, guys, if you can do that. Question: any opinion on using wood ash in the wormery? Has a similar thing to calcium. It's a pH buffer. You can use a little bit of it. Don't go over it, because you might actually make it too alkaline. So I prefer to sort of, just use a little bit, like a sprinkle, like you would say eggshell or something like that, without getting too in depth, and that way you won't mess the pH balance up. Pinball Wizard. I would mix your blood and bone with compost and let it cook for a couple of weeks before placing in worm bin. Blood heats up when composting. Great answer. Thank you, Pinball Wizard. We are going to crank that off with the answer of the day from Pinball Wizard. Thank you so much. Great answer. And the artificial crowd loves you by Fred. There we go. Rick the Lane. Hey, remember daylight savings is finished, everyone. I just use the phone and all my electronic stuff, so it just changes over automatically, and bang, I am sweet. But if you've got a clock on your wall and you need to change it, maybe do so. The one in the car doesn't change, unfortunately, automatically for me. But yeah, thanks, Rick, for sharing that with us, mate. So that's in New South Wales, Australia. If anyone's asking, we put our clock forward an hour for the summer to give us some more time. And there's a debate about it, whether people like it or they don't like it, but I seem to quite enjoy it. So if you've come through to the show a little bit later, you want to see the top 7, I've got to 10 there. Let's get this wrong. There we go. Hang on. What do we got? 7. Top 7 tips, for starting a worm farm, what to look for in a worm farm. So check it out. And yeah, also we've got Super Chat available if you want to help the show, and that's available in the chat box. And also buy me a coffee link down below where you can pick up the worm farming guide there, Starting a Worm Farmer Beginner's Guide in ebook form, or just pop in and buy me a coffee, and that really helps the channel grow. And also we're building out this new studio now where we got some super chats today that should be helping towards that, to yes, film more worm farming and stuff, and showing how it can be used to create an amazing garden. In my backyard now, I've got my little food forest that's a bit about 3.5 years old, and that's just punching out food all the day. And now we've got to put up the garden beds and extend out to it. And so the whole garden will become this like amazing little studio. I'm a renter here. I'm just going to go for it and just keep doing it. And so one day I will have to move, but I understand that. David Morgan. The worm city is very sturdy as the leg is upturned worm tray, and the sump is the lid with a hole for the tap, so saves in production costs, plus it's made from recycled plastic. Yeah, awesome, mate. Well, if you're finding that's really good for you, and yeah, the worm city sounds like it could be a good worm farm. Well, it doesn't sound like, if you're happy with it, I'm sure it is a good worm farm. And so thank you for sharing that. Anyone's got any more questions, I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, thanks for coming and watching the show. And we've got another super chat from Wayne's Worm Farm. Thank you so much, my friend. We're gonna bring it in the crowd. The crowd loves you and says thank you. My artificial crowd, 0.79, I think that's pounds, from Wayne's Worm Farm. So thank you very much, much appreciated. And it's been great. Everyone's been so supportive through these live shows. And obviously, at the beginning, we have most of the content where people can access and get all that content that they can use. And then we bring in you guys to help produce this show and share all this wealth of information that we have. So thank you so much to everyone shared in the content so far. It's been absolutely just brilliant. What we do is we get towards near the end of the show is we, if you're new to coming in here to the lives, I drop in the comments at the end, and we say goodbye to each other inside the box there, and also to me, and we have a bit of music going out at the end. But we've got a few more minutes left before we do that, so if you've got any more questions, fire away. I will have another sip on my overly tonicked lime juice here. Oh, I'm going to add a bit more water to that when we get near the end. Thank you everyone for your super chat so far. And if you're coming in and watching the reruns, thank you so much for watching. If you've come to this video right to the end, unreal, because you've saved me a lot of watch time as well. We've got 26 thumbs up, 24 people watching. It's just absolutely brilliant. Matt Ellsworth, still Saturday night here. It's like looking into the future. Yeah, well, 9:59 a.m. and yeah, we're always a little bit ahead here in Australia. It always feels odd that, right? But that's the way the world works. And I've never been over to your side of the world over there where I've had to go back in time. So very interesting stuff, Matt. And look, I love that picture of the fish that you've caught there. Being a fisherman myself, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I need to go fishing again. And I wish I could some way to introduce it into the show, but people just don't seem to be interested in that. I'd have to have a whole different fishing channel, and then we don't really have time to produce something like that. But I would follow someone around if they paid me to film them fishing, because I would enjoy that whole production side of things. All right, so remember, we're going to head off now. We're on at 10 o'clock, and if anyone wants to drop their chat into the box, say goodbye to a friend, say goodbye to me, I'll drag it across. I'll put it in here. We put the theme song on as we're running it across, and it's been an awesome show. But don't go yet. Make sure you say goodbye to me. Say goodbye to the crew, and hang in there, and we will put on some music, the theme song for the show. Remember, put your comments across, guys. I'll drag them in, and we'll say goodbye.
The sun is warm, there's a gentle breeze. All the birds are making homes inside the evergreens. The air is clear, With our loved ones close, you can pick out every star without a telescope. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, you know, everything we've lost comes on again, and I will grab onto your arm a little stronger than we were before. I've missed your face. Has it been that long? Looking forward to a fire and a sing-along. Let's stay the same as the children grow, and teach them all the simple things we thought we used to know. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, you know, everything we've lost comes on again, and I will grab onto your arm a little stronger than we were before. In a world, in a day, we are all brand new, and it's love that we're fighting for. I'm proud, you know, that we always held out hope. So if you grab onto my arms, let's take a walk until the sun gets warm. In time, you know, everything we've lost comes home again, and I will grab onto your arms a little stronger than we were before.
Thanks everyone for coming to watch the show. It's been great. I really enjoyed producing this. I enjoy it actually every time we bring out a live show. I'm going to try to be here every second Sunday or Saturday night, depending on where you are around the type of the world, the globe. Starting to lose my voice now. 1 hour of speaking can get a bit wild. And look, if you do want to come on a live show at some stage, you can find, go to my about in my YouTube, send me an email. You'll find my email there and send me an email, and we'll try and organise something into the future. So it all runs nice and smoothly, and we know what the topic is and all those different types of things. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming to the show, and love you all. Have a great day. Thanks again for your support. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next video / live show vlog real soon. Remember, vlogs are every Saturday. We just didn't have one this weekend, but next weekend we're starting to build out with the greenhouse and everything, and people are supporting that. So thank you again, and have an awesome day. We'll see you at the next video vlog real soon. Bye for now. Ciao.